I had this huge script written out about how today's podcast would go, celebrating a Cavs final victory of the season over the Charlotte Hornets, a team that has kind of given the Cavs some issues during the course of this season. But obviously I can't go that route. I had to throw all that shit out just because of what just occurred. Now, whatever side of the fence that you find yourself at in regards to what just occurred in Cleveland, that's your opinion. That's up to you. To the observer, right? To the regular typical observer, it certainly seems as if Cleveland, along with a bevy of other teams, because it's not just the Cavs, it seems like the Cavs were trying to avoid either Philly or Miami by getting that second seed based upon what just occurred. And here's the thing. I get it. At some level, I get not wanting the Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid has just returned to the Philadelphia 76ers. He has constantly given Cleveland issues in the past, and I understand maybe possibly wanting to go away from that as a first round matchup. That's a big fucking matchup in first round. And so, yeah, I mean, Morgan Peter Brown, thanks for being a voice of reason in here. Watch the Heat beat the Celtics in round one. Some crazy shit's going to go down. And we know why Miami, we know why Philadelphia has fallen down so far in the standings throughout the year. For Philly, it's because Embiid was hurt for much of the season. He took a big chunk out, right? And then just returned. And that clearly affected where they finished at in the standings. So, in my opinion, yes, it sort of makes sense to kind of avoid those two in the first round, especially with how inconsistent this team has been this year. And for all you people out there complaining about that, look, man, nobody seemed confident in where this team is at. Like right now, nobody seemed confident in the way that they were playing. Nobody seemed like they looked at New York, they looked at Orlando, they've been looking at Philly, they've been looking at Boston. Everybody's scared of these teams. So which is it, right? Because you guys, do you have the confidence that they can beat? How in one sentence can you say, this team can't do shit. They're a first round exit. They're this, they're that. How can you say that in one breath and then look at them and see a strategic move being pulled where they're trying to avoid a specific matchups possibly and say to yourself, oh, let's go after the toughest route possible. Let's go after the toughest route possible. And I don't know what occurred, on the sidelines. I don't know if they were telling JB, hey, this is what's happening right now with New York. This is what's happening right now with Milwaukee, yada, yada, yada. So we should probably try and lose this game, or we should probably try and win this game. I don't know what the fuck happened. All I can say is that I'm okay with the fourth seeded matchup. I'm okay with it. I'm okay. It ensures, I believe, the Orlando Magic, right? It ensures the Orlando Magic as the opponent that the Cavaliers are going to face off with. And that is by no means a gimme series. You guys probably saw me tweet out something about a confidence booster, perhaps. But look, if you're choosing your first round opponent, if you have a say in your first round opponent, I don't know why you would want to try and get up to that 2 seed in some regards. I can respect going out there and immediately playing the Philadelphia 76ers. Beating them in a first round series would have been huge, right? Here's the thing. That probably, based upon history, would suggest that the Cavs probably would not have beaten the Philadelphia 76ers in a 7-game series. Look inside your heart. I just don't know. I don't know if that's possible. I mean, it's obviously possible. I just don't know if that would have been the case. And so this gives them the opportunity to go out there and win a first round series. Noah Herro just says down here, the Knicks, Bucks, Cavs all would have had the same record. It wasn't a 2-way tie. It was a 3-way tie. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of info and a lot of confusing things being floated out there. All I'm here to say is this. Look, regardless of who the opponent is, and in that 4 seed, people are just already looking past the first round and looking at a possible matchup with Boston and just shitting their pants already. Everybody's so fucking pissed off about the fact that they could possibly play Boston in the second round rather than meet in the Eastern Conference Finals when they have to get to the second round to get They'd have to beat the first round series opponents to get to the second round. There was nothing guaranteed about any of this, right? So why wouldn't you want to play in or have an easier path than for, and I say that loosely, right? I say that loosely. And so Noah Harris just says the Knicks winning right now, though, so we could have potentially just ducked Indiana. I'm Indiana. Look, there's a lot of different scenarios here. Yes, they could have gone the 3-6 route and gotten Indiana at the drop of a hat. Some of these decisions that are being made, and this is the thing: we don't know. We don't know exactly what has been said. We don't know what was said on the sidelines to JB. We don't know what decisions were made in regards to tanking this game or not. But that's what it appeared to be. And in the moment, in real time, those are probably tough calls to make, to sell a game, right? To lose a game that looked like it was perfectly winnable towards the end. I don't know. I truly don't. All I can say is that I'm okay with whoever the matchup is in the fourth. I mean, that's if I see Elliot Clausen down here saying, but the issue I have is who are we to try and play cute? We got clapped last season, taking the Knicks for granted, doing the same thing again. I don't think they're taking anything for granted. Listen to what you're saying, bro. Listen to what you're saying. They obviously if it was a calculated decision to lose this game, it was because they are not trying to take an opponent in Philadelphia or Miami for granted. They didn't want that smoke. I mean, that's what it looks like, right? I don't know that for sure, but that's what it looks like. So clearly, they're not taking any team for granted. They're looking at their options and they're saying to themselves, those two teams would be a little bit more difficult or a lot more difficult than the Indiana Pacers or the Orlando Magic. That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying. You guys, you're entitled to your own opinions. I get that. But I'm not going to sit up here and act like a matchup against the Philadelphia 76ers or the Miami Heat, who I've heard people bitch and complain about all season. Like, I don't want to play them. I don't want to play them. I don't want to play them. I've listened to people say this shit all season long. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, just make up your minds. Make up your minds. That's all I'm saying. People, they saw that performance against the Pacers the other day, and I don't know, maybe it tricked people into thinking they could beat Philly or they could beat Miami or any number of these teams in the first round. In the first round. I don't think that's a series that you want to see, but I mean, to each their own. Chaz Lerner says we're better at home, so it would have been nice to have home court, but I understand why we want the Magic. But if we lose the first round again, look, Chaz, none of us wants to lose in the first round. That would signify it would signify shifts, right? Donovan Mitchell's gone, JB's gone, changes are going to be made. That's it. That's it. No matter the opponent, no matter who the opponent is, changes will be made if they lose in the first round. X Factor says, I don't like throwing games just to throw games. I understand it, but I'm not a fan of it. And this is the thing. We're speculating that that's what actually happened. We don't know that with any definitiveness, right? But I mean, Chris Fedor reported before the game that this was not like a huge motivating factor. Like this game was not like a huge game that the Cavs circled on their calendar and said, hey, we got to play all of our starters. We got to be out there. We got to try hard. We got to win this game. Now, don't get me wrong. I wanted to win that. I wanted to win, especially after the Max Strus triple-double, as Sven Gaming suggests down here. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to just shit on everybody and just call the Cavs weak or anything like that. Because, I mean, it often is a game of matchups, right? It is definitely a game of matchups out there, and styles make fights, especially in regards to the postseason. And so, I don't know. Say what you want, call them pussies. I don't care what your opinion is. It makes sense to not want to play the Philadelphia 76ers or the Miami Heat in the first round. That is a tough series. Yeah, I know JB hinted at it. I mean, there's definitely things that were said, but again, it's just all speculation. It's all speculation. Barath Korapati says we're getting the NBA TV series. LOL. Certainly looks that way. Certainly looks that way. I'm not pissed, man. I'm not. I understand the rationale behind it all. There are rational thoughts on both sides. There are good examples on both examples of why they should or should not have thrown that game either way, right? If they don't throw the game, they could possibly have ended up at number 3, I believe, and got an Indiana matchup. I haven't. Yes. Dr. Cole, thank you for joining. Dr. Claw says people are mad, but the CPJ injury is a good example of what can go wrong into going into the playoffs. Never expected a real game. We did learn good things about Ice and Max today. It was good. I mean, Max Strus is up and down as a season as he has had this year. One thing that he has always brought to the table is such a multifaceted game. I know the 3-point shooting has fluctuated at many points throughout this season, but he has shown that he is much, much more than a shooter. And this is part of some of the script that I had written out for today's episode, prior to what occurred in the fourth quarter, because it felt like Max Strus did a little bit of everything out there. It truly, truly did. And here's the thing: before I really dig deep into Strus, as Dr. Claw suggested down here, the CPJ injury, which, if I'm not mistaken, was diagnosed as a left ankle sprain, that occurred after the dude played just 9 minutes and 30 total seconds out there. And that is exactly why that's why you sit as many of your stars, as many of your rotation players as you can, because it's a classic example of what can go wrong. It's precisely one of the reasons why Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell were sat today, because you don't take that risk, because we have seen it time and time again. Injuries can happen at the blink of an eye. So I am really glad they didn't play today. I mean, that's all I got to say in regards to that. I'm seriously hoping that they're able to get some good news in regards to him. I hope the left ankle sprain isn't too bad, but man, that could have easily been Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell. So I'm glad that was not the case today. The game, there was a lot that actually went on in this game. As Claude referred to, Max Strus was phenomenal. We learned a lot about him today, I would say. It just seems like he was doing a little bit of everything out there, from being a de facto point guard after Craig Porter Jr. left the game. And boy, oh boy, was it another reminder that this man, again, he's not just a shooter. He's a viable facilitator out there. He made several high-level passes to get his guys good looks. He had every time he brought the ball up the floor, he had his head on swivel and was eyeing a chance at a possible assist. He worked the drive and kick game. He excelled off of DHOs. He made extra passes, right? And he just did it all as a facilitator. And it's a huge reason why he came into today averaging a career best 3.9 assists per game, that's basically more than all of his previous seasons combined. Seriously, I am not joking. It is literally, if you take the completion, if you could take all the previous seasons that he's had in years past and compile it together, he would have just as many assists as he's had this season, basically. He was really active on the glass as well, an area in which he showed out this year, and his 4.8 rebounds per game were another career high, right? The swingman would finish with his first career triple-double with 14 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists, while completing 5 of 12 from the field, including 4 of 6 from three-point range. That's big time in my opinion, and we're going to need him heading into that first-round matchup. I don't know. So much to talk about. My head is all over the place right now. I got people in my mentions, people talking shit, a lot of different things. Talking and Grubbing Media says, "What's up, Mac? It's playoff time, bro. What's up, man? How you doing? I really hope that you feel good about the direction that the Cavaliers are heading in. But if not, I mean, it's okay. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion." Tune In Sports says Tibbs runs his players to the ground. We know the classic stick in regards to Tibbs is that he grinds his guys down. I mean, we saw him do it with Derrick Rose. We saw him do it with Jimmy Butler, Luol Deng. I mean, name your number of players. He's really done that to some of his stars out there. And I mean, that's one way to operate as a head coach, but I don't necessarily feel like you had to go out there and do that. I don't feel like the Cavs did. As JB alluded to, he saw what was going on around the league. And once he sat the guys that he did choose to play tonight that are our starters, whether that be Max Strus, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, after they were sat, they were really, for the last time, they really weren't pulled back in, especially even after the game was, they were starting to lose the shot at winning. And I get why he just decided, you know what, we're not going to risk any further injury, especially after watching Craig Porter Jr. get hurt. I understood completely why he didn't pull Max back off the bench, although I really wanted him to, right? I did not want to lose that game, but I get it. Talking to Grubman Media says, I'm feeling good about going into the playoffs. DM is looking healthy and the team is getting guys back. So let's go. And this is the thing, right? For people who are pissed off about what occurred today, for people who are pissed off about how the Cavs ended the final game of the regular season, nothing is a given, right? And if you can get a win in that first round, that's a major confidence booster. And if they're able to do that, who knows? Who knows what they'll be able to accomplish? Maybe if they face off, because there's no guarantee that Boston wins in round one. I know a lot of people have just completely written off them as a first round series victory, but that's not necessarily the case. Things can occur during the postseason that you cannot plan for. Teams have crazy runs. I mean, look at what Miami did last year from the playing spot. They went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and what ended up, what I'm tripping. I'm tripping. I'm tripping big time. They went to the they went from the playing spot, and if I'm not mistaken, they were in the finals last year, weren't they? But point that I'm making is that they are a threat no matter what spot they're in. It's similar to them. Philadelphia can be much the same way. Teams that you cannot teams that have been there time and time again are not always the teams that finish with higher seeding. As long as you get it, I mean, look at LA. Look at what the Lakers have been able to do in prior seasons, right? They finished in the play-in last year, and they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals before just getting absolutely shellacked against the Denver Nuggets. It is what it is, man. Just the Cavs, they dug their graves, and now they're going to have to lay in, and hopefully it's a shallow grave and something they can rise from the ashes on, right? And the Indiana performance in that victory the other day, that was a good sign with at basically full strength, showing minus Dean Wade that they still have enough to get the job done. And yes, it would have been nice to have a shot against them in in that 3-6 spot, but it is what it is, man. I'm not pissed about it. I'm okay. Yeah, he got to the final. I knew I was spacing out on that. Both of those teams, if I'm not mistaken, were in the play-in tournament last year. Lakers went to the finals, conference finals, and Heat got to the finals after beating Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? And so you just never truly know. For everybody who's writing them off in the second round, and for everybody who's writing Boston in as a shoe-in to get to the second round, you better watch that first round series, because it would not surprise me in the slightest for some crazy shit like that to occur. It's just part of sports. Anything could happen in the playoffs. Barath Gorapati says, Tony had a tweet saying we play Boston no matter what. So what's the point in avoiding them? In which I agree. I tweeted out much the same thing. Like, we're going to have to eventually face Boston in the second round. If things played out a little bit differently today, we would have met them in the Eastern Conference Finals. But who the fuck cares? I mean, there are a lot of different teams this year that could probably say they don't want to play Boston. But eventually, you're going to have to beat the big, to be the man, you got to beat the man. All right. It is what it is. The Knicks are officially the 2 seed, according to Noah Heritage. Well, if that's the case, I mean, what they got Miami, right? Is that where we're heading at right now? Is that the matchup right now? I think. No, 2 seed would mean I don't know if this is actually updated just yet. So it's either going to be Miami or the 76ers. But with that being the case, I mean, definitely, you're suggesting, Barath, that the Knicks will win. But again, these are tough opponents. Miami or Philly, they're not going to go out simply because New York may or may not have more talent or things like that. Eric Spoelstra, we have learned never to doubt that, man. It would not surprise me at all if Philly, whoever that matchup is, Miami or Philly, if they were able to escape that first round series. And let me tell you guys, the second that happens, that either one of those teams makes it and advances to the second round over a higher seed, you're going to see a bunch of Cavs fans saying, whoa, man, I'm glad we didn't have to play them. You're going to see that occur. You're going to see a whole wave of people suggesting, you know what, I'm glad that we that we did not have to face them because they're a juggernaut that had no business being in the play-in tournament to begin with. Because Philly, we all know if Embiid was healthy, they wouldn't be there. They would not be there. They would be a top 4, top 3 seed. Borath also says Heat will turn on their black magic just in time. That's what they always fucking do. And that's what pisses you off about them. And again, I saw all number of people hit me up all season long saying we do not want to see Eric Spoelstra in the first round just because he would coach circles around JB Bickerstaff and the Cavs just don't play physical enough, especially after the Cavs got their asses handed to them in their last matchup. I mean, that says it all right there. These teams don't really belong in the play-in tournament. They're just, the East is that good for one, and two, they've had to deal with some injury adversity, both of those teams. So, I mean, I know we've kind of strayed away from the Cavs a bit here, but that's the point that I'm making is that it made sense. It made sense. If that was the call, if that was the decision that was handed down to JB, it made sense. And I can't be pissed off about it. Anaconda 123 says, knowing what we know now, we should have won tonight for that 3 seed. Haha, could have, would have. I mean, yeah. I mean, I would have liked it. I would have liked it. But there is no givens. There is no givens. Any team is a threat come the postseason. Barath Core Party says, who do you think will win the 7-8 play-in matchup, Miami or Philly? I'm going to take Philly. Tentatively, I like Embiid as long as Embiid can stay healthy. I think that's certainly a matchup that is going to be box office. And we wouldn't normally get a play-in matchup like this if Philadelphia didn't have to deal with injuries throughout this season. Elliot says, is Magic a big team? That could be concerning. I mean, you got Franz Wagner dealing with some of the stuff he's had there. Paolo, we've faced off against them numerous times this season, and it's kind of been hit and miss, right? Kind of been hit and miss. And so it's by no means going to be a cakewalk, but at the end of the day, it certainly beats having to play Philadelphia or Miami in the first round. Talking Grub Media says Celtics aren't guaranteed to win in their first round series matchup. Yeah, I mean, that it is what it is. Rob says to talk about every team like we don't stand a chance shows that where we are as a franchise. The matchups that I think most fans were looking to, Rob, before this day began, and that people were hoping for either Indiana or Orlando, while people have suggested that they had no chance beating Philadelphia, no chance beating Miami, and then the Knicks, they're kind of in a category of, well, you probably don't want to play them, but probably have the most to gain from a confidence standpoint from playing them because one, you get a little bit of revenge, would be great for ratings. And you get to kind of put to sleep some of the narratives that were put out over the offseason, especially Jarrett Allen, right? The lights are too bright. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody necessarily feels like they can't beat any of those teams, but it made sense to try and be strategic with when you play them, or if you can dictate who you actually play, it kind of makes sense. I know a lot of people are kind of pissed off about how it went today, but it is what it is. And it kind of says Magic is not an experienced team. It's a good exercise for Cavs because Magic will be physical, but we got to win. Absolutely have to win. You don't win, Donovan Mitchell's likely gone. JB is obviously gone, and then there could be even more changes. You could see a lot of different things happen this offseason if they lose in the first round. But this is where we are, man. This is where we are, and I'm okay with it. I am okay with the 4 seed and the matchup that it brings. That's where we're at. Again, there was a lot to talk about today, and I feel like I haven't even gotten a chance to talk about the game at all just because people are feeling way, way too emotional right now in regards to what occurred today. But we truly did get to see a lot today. We got to see Emoni Bates. Emoni Bates minutes in the first quarter, mind you, and I'm just so very beyond excited for what the future holds for that young man because he's got some serious skills offensively. We saw it all season long with the Cleveland Charge. But the one thing that we kind of wanted to see out of him this year was the improvement on the defensive side of the ball, whether that be team defense or his defense one-on-one, right? Individual defense in regards to matchups. And I also wanted, just as a selfish observation, I kind of wanted to see him put in some work as a facilitator as much as possible, because in his days at Eastern Michigan, you could clearly tell where the team, he was just constantly used to putting it on his back. And so there was a lot of terrible shot taking there, the shot charts, and just it wasn't great. It wasn't great by any means, but he clearly tell that the talent was there, and that if he could be surrounded with NBA caliber talent, that wouldn't necessarily have to be the case all the time. And so I was really interested to see his development as a facilitator. And we didn't necessarily get to see that today, but it definitely isn't one of those things that leaves you to believe that he's ready at this point in time. X Factor says Emoni is definitely not a ball handler, but off ball, he looked decent. He's always looked decent off ball. He's a great off ball shooter. And one of the things that we have been able to see him do with the Charge, and to some extent today, is the fact that his ability to catch and shoot, right? That was one of the skills that it was highly touted for him coming out of Eastern Michigan. But we get to see that continuously throughout the season with the Charge, and we get to see it again today. And one of the things that I really was impressed with him this season was his ability to shoot off of screens. It's not necessarily Kyle Korverian or Kyle Korverian. I don't even know how you would say that, or Sam Merrillish, but I mean, his ability to go out there and shoot off screens is definitely improving. And I was very, very happy to see him get some early run today. That would not have happened if Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland played today. And with this being the final game of the season, it made all the sense in the world to give him as much run as possible. And then, we got to see some really solid work from Tristan Thompson, who gave the Cavs some really good minutes, finishing through contact. And in my opinion, there will absolutely be a game or series even during this year's playoffs where Double T will become a major asset out there, be it a possible series against the New York Knicks in the second round or, beyond. And I see the physicality that he can bring. And I'm just like, man, that's a signing that's going to eventually come in handy when the Cavs need a matchup dependent big out there, more traditionally size 5, who can run the floor, who can operate out of the pick and roll, and could still, to a certain degree, rim protect at certain points. I know that might be a little generous, but Tristan Thompson can definitely still get the job done in many regards. In and Out of the Abyss says Cavs lost this one on purpose and don't blame them. Also, you can't judge Emoni on his ball handling on this game. People who talk shit on his handle will eat their words when he gets rhythm. I'm a huge Emoni Bates fan. I think that it's fair to critique him as a ball handler right now, because it's not as if he hasn't had the opportunities to improve upon that with the Charge, right? And so that's where I'm at with that. It's okay to evaluate that specific thing, because while we haven't seen it at the NBA level, we have seen him with the ball in his hands considerably, a big time amount, a huge chunk of the lion's share of minutes with the Cleveland Charge. So I think that's fair to evaluate that. And he clearly isn't ready for the NBA just yet, but there are definitely things that he has improved upon. Chaz Orlando says, I'm not giving up on Isaiah Mobley yet either. I'm not either. I mean, when Evan Mobley grabbed the offensive rebound and dished it out to his brother for that triple, that was awesome. And I just don't know how many times they're going to get the opportunity to see that type of sequence occur, because a lot of people have already written off Evan Mobley. It's just, good enough for the G League, but not quite good enough to play at the NBA level. And so that's a player, in my opinion, that I love, that I love his game. I feel like he has a very diverse game for a big, but I just don't know if it'll ever translate that well at the NBA level. He very well could. I just don't know if it'll end up being for the Cavs. In an Abyss, I see, man. I understand what you're saying. He says, my comment was towards the commenter more than you. Your evaluation was fair, but saying he isn't a ball handler is kind of crazy at his stage and experience level. Oh yeah, I mean, it's hit and miss with him at points in time. You can clearly tell that the handle is it's still improving. It's not quite at where you would want it to be, but as of right now, it's not quite something that you need him to do, right? Especially with the dearth of ball handlers and facilitators that this Cleveland team employees, whether it be Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Craig Porter Jr., Karis LeVert, Max Strus, right? I mean, there's a couple of unexpected names in there that prior to the season you weren't really feeling like that the Cavs had. So it feels good to be able to say that you can you can rely upon some other guys outside of Donovan and Darius and Karis to go out there and facilitate. But outside of Isaiah, outside of Emoni, outside of Max, another player that we got to see today, it was Pete Nance, who drilled his first triple. Well, really, he scored his first NBA points. That was pretty cool. I had a feeling that we were going to see a good solid dosage of Pete Nance today, with this being the last game of the regular season and all. But I just didn't think that we would end up seeing him knock down a triple today. I just didn't see it. That said, clearly this Cavs team is deep, and hopefully they're able to put together a solid postseason run. I know a lot of people are down on this team right now. They don't feel like they have what it takes. They feel like today, doing what they did and tanking the game, or, intentionally losing the game, a lot of people feel that, that was a bitch move. But I mean, it is what it is. Mike Brown says, how do you feel about us selling the 3 seed on purpose, bro? I'm pissed. I get it, man. Look, I understand it. I'm not going to sit here and say that anybody is wrong for their beliefs. I'm simply just suggesting that I understand why. That's really it, right? I understand why that was the case, because avoiding Philadelphia, avoiding Miami certainly seemed like a smart decision in some regards. But as TuneIn says, it is what it is. The 3 seed, I'm not sure if maybe, because you can't control the outcomes here, right? And in real time, especially, you can't control whether or not New York is going to win or lose to Chicago. You can't control whether or not Miami is going to lose, not Miami, whether or not Milwaukee is going to lose to the Magic. You can't really in real time assess some of these things. Say the Cavs did decide they were going to go out there and win. Some other factors that are out of the Cavs' control could have occurred with them winding up with the 2 seed. A lot of different things going on, and so I get why people might be pissed off about that decision. But I mean, it is what it is. It's exactly as TuneIn says. Mike Brown says also the Knicks taking that challenge is ballsy. Yeah. Rob says, your son says I fought the little guy, so I didn't get my ass kicked by that big guy. LOL. I mean, it is. I don't know if that's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a joke at my expense. I don't know, or if you're making a different type of point. But I'm just saying I understand why the decision possibly was made. It is what it is. It made sense to try and get a easier first round matchup, to try and get yourselves in working order and get a confidence booster before having to possibly take on the Boston Celtics in the second round. TuneIn says, we're going to see Boston Heat Sixers second round if we win against Orlando. It's a gauntlet, man. I mean, there are no easy matchups, and so I mean, I don't understand why people are so up in arms about this. It is what it is, because I can guarantee you, if Boston loses in the first round, or if New York loses in the first round to either of those teams, people are going to be vindicated in the belief that they were, that the Cavs being in the 4 seed is fine. Now, if you wanted them to end up in 3, that's fine. I get it. I completely understand it with Indiana being there, but it's kind of hard to make a decision and know exactly what's going to happen, because again, if the Cavs would have ended up winning today, there's no guarantee that they would have ended up with the 3rd seed. You can't make decisions like that knowing everything that's going to happen. And so I think the Cavs, whether this is a calculated decision or not, it is what it is. And then Out of the Abyss says, if the Cavs were playing fully in rhythm like when we went on that winning streak and they were fully healthy, they would have took the challenge. Possibly. I mean, I don't necessarily, especially in regards to today, I don't think they came into today as I said earlier, like Chris Fedor reported earlier on, this wasn't a matchup the Cavs circled on their calendar and said to themselves, we absolutely have to go out here and win this game at all costs. It's exactly why Donovan and Darius didn't play. And I was okay with that because especially after watching Craig Porter Jr. get hurt. Mike says, I low-key think we match up versus Boston better than Embiid or Jimmy Spoelstra. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people are of that mindset. And everything I say today is in service of the fact that, look, it is what it is. It is what it is. XB says, good night from Spain, Cast family. Thanks for tuning in, man. I know I've kind of been rambling today, but I can't help it. It's the final game of the season. I'm kind of burned out a little bit, and people have been coming at me all day with some bullshit. So I had to speak my mind on this. And again, final opinion on it is, look, it is what it is. There are good reasons why to skip out on winning this game, and there are a few reasons why the Cavs probably should have won this game. Left ankle sprain. That's all we got. Unless it was reported in the post game, which I didn't have an opportunity to watch all of. They reported on the broadcast that it was a left ankle sprain, and we know, man. I think. Was it Ty Jerome? Ty Jerome had a left ankle or had an ankle sprain. Isn't that part of the reason why he missed so much time this year? And we know how I say all that to say we know that ankle sprains can be a lingering issue, especially for a player like Craig Porter Jr., who relies a lot on his athleticism. Jay Quest says, Peace XB, yo, Mac, thanks for rambling on. Thanks for rambling. We're here for it. I'm glad, man. I appreciate it because a lot of times I feel like I start a sentence and I do not know where it's going to finish. Talking and Grubbing Media says, if we're going to move up to contenders, we can't keep ducking teams in the playoffs. I think that's a valid statement, right? And again, I will never advocate for a team to lose. I simply understand why the decision possibly was made. That's all I'm saying. And so for people who are questioning whether or not, I buy the fact where I'm okay with losing. No, I am not. I'm just okay with the fact that, that where we have landed, the route that we have chosen. Talking and Grubbing Media also says, or fear teams, this is the playoffs. All teams earn their way to this point. Indeed, they did. One thing that I did not want this Cavaliers team to do was stumble into the playoffs. And if you feel like today was stumbling, I don't know if I can agree with you simply because obviously decisions were made to sit a couple of guys and the Cavs had that game within hand, even with who they had out there, even if this was like the lineup that they played today against Charlotte, JT Thor and company. I mean, they should have been able to win the game. And I think that a decision was made for them not to. And so that's where we're at. Hopefully, as time goes on over the next couple of days, as we get somewhat of a break here, I'm able to have podcasts that are a little bit more well-informed and not just so much rambling, but this is what these last couple of games of the season are for, right? Just bullshitting. In and out of the abyss says, this is a semi-rare time where I don't mind ducking. It's a long-term strategy. We need to get our rhythm and confidence back. And that's exactly why I feel like I understood why that decision possibly was made, because you get a first round matchup against an opponent who is not going to be a walk in the park, obviously not going to be a cakewalk, but probably a little easier than a potential matchup against the Philadelphia 76ers or the Miami Heat. And so if you can get out of the first round, you have built your confidence up and you feel good. I'm not quite sure what's up with D-Wade. I know he's been dealing with some knee issues this year. Hasn't been heavily been reported, but that is definitely something I plan on trying to get to. No, it's been a fair share of time on the pod already. I will let you guys get back to it. As I always say, if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you'd like to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you an invite. That said, just wanted to point out something, and I'm not sure if many people have seen this. I actually just started a Patreon. Feel free to help me out on there, sis. If you like my content, I would definitely appreciate if you signed up on there. I'd love that to help me keep producing content and put out a couple of items. And one of the things that I've kind of been toying around with was asking people, like, if you were interested in doing something like that, what would be one of the potential benefits that you would like to see be added as a membership? And so creating that, I put some generic defaults on there, but I would love to hear from you guys if you do end up becoming a Patreon supporter. um Let me know. On the post that I posted on there, the first one gives a couple of answers, but if you want to comment on that, I would definitely love to get some input from you guys. But it is definitely something that I put out there. I will link it in the description. Any support helps, and if you don't support and you just watching the channel, that's cool too. Either way, I'm pretty confident in this Cavaliers team. I do like our chances in the first round against presumably Orlando and beyond. And we'll just have to take it a series, one game in a series at a time, and go from there. That said, go Cavs. Have a good one.